Hello, hello, and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and we have an amazing show. This is a show about the legal system. Okay, and here's the fact of the matter, folks. Whether you like it or not, it is going to be part of your life. It may be part of your life, and if it's not part of your life, it will be. And so, this whole podcast is about finding better and learning from other people's experiences because the fact of the matter is, a lot of times the easiest way to success or the easiest way to prevent failure is to learn from other folks and copy their examples. And so today I have Leonie Rosenstiel with me. Leonie, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Folks, if you're on my YouTube channel, you can see behind Leonie her books. One's called Protecting Mama, and the other one is called Legal Protection. We are going to be talking about her experiences in terms of what led her to write these books, which she wrote for laymen like me, or lay people like me, whatever the politically correct pronoun or whatever it is these days. But anyway, the idea being, she's gone through a lot in her life, and she has decided to make it her mission to inform all of us of what's happening out there, how we can get in front of it. First of all, by understanding what the possibilities are, and then what we can do about it. So, Leonie, thank you so much for joining me today. When we talked about your experience, I honestly could not believe it. I was speechless. Um, I couldn't even think of questions to ask because, it's one of those things where, as I'm learning from you, um, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. And yet here we are. So
You're in
let's,
very good company, John, because the first time I spoke to Jack Canfield, I showed him the manuscript for Protecting Mama.
uh-huh.
He said, I read it. I didn't believe it, and I called my attorney. I picked up the phone immediately and I called my attorney, and he assured me that these things can happen.
My goodness. So folks, in case you don't know, Jack Canfield is an author. In fact, he's arguably, maybe not that arguably, one of the most successful authors in the world, having sold over 500 million books of his Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So Leonie is good friends with Jack. I have it on my bucket list to meet him. But here's a man that, holy smoke, has got all the successes in the world, and he didn't know anything about this. So, Leonie, let's get right into this. The idea is what the legal system can do to you that we don't know, and talk about your experience that you had briefly about what happened with your mom, and what led to you setting this mission in your life.
Okay, well, a lot of people have experience with an older relative who is not as alert as they used to be. Maybe they're forgetful, maybe they're not taking care of themselves properly. All kinds of things can go wrong
Maybe
and
they have
do.
Alzheimer's like my mom did,
Yeah, my
right?
mother did
Yeah, all
too.
kinds of
My
things.
mother did
Yeah.
too, but she didn't want to believe it.
Okay.
And one of the things that happens is there are stages in that illness.
Hmm.
And one of those stages consists in very vehement denials of anything being wrong.
Yep.
And then it becomes very difficult dealing with that person if there's a problem. My mother lost her driver's license because she couldn't concentrate at the test. You have to go and be retested. And when she was 90 years old, she flunked her driving test
Hmm.
and was very angry. If I had, meaning me, had done something different, she wouldn't have lost her license. There was no way she could have passed it
Yeah.
because she had cataracts and she wouldn't have them operated on.
Oh my goodness.
So she couldn't see and she couldn't concentrate. Other than that, she would have been a good driver. Yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
there are all kinds of things that can go wrong. And that was
Yep.
one of them.
All
She
kinds of
was
things.
very, very unhappy. She loved being able to drive.
Hmm.
And now she couldn't anymore, and she was not happy. Other things happened with her that made it clear to me that she couldn't be alone. One of them was I came into her home one day to take her to lunch, and there was blood all over the kitchen. The kitchen was right near the side door where I came in. I could see blood on the counter. And I saw my mother standing, just standing, staring at the wall and bleeding. There was a phone right next to her. She could have called for help. She
Uh-huh.
was just standing there, numb.
Okay.
And I got her to urgent care. It took 17 stitches to close up the thumb that she had injured with a knife,
Ah,
holding a knife in one hand and the bleeding hand on the other side. So she thought she was cutting food. There was no food anywhere
oh
around her.
my goodness.
She was
Hmm.
hallucinating food.
Hmm.
So that meant she couldn't be left alone. She had a kitchen, like everybody's got a kitchen, and the kitchen has knives in it, and she clearly injured herself.
And she's living alone at this time.
She was living alone. My
Yeah.
father had died some years before, and she was living in a house near mine. We weren't living in the same house. I was living with my husband in a home nearby,
Hmm.
and I couldn't leave her alone anymore. I had to have someone with her all the time. Now,
Yep.
this is something a lot of people don't realize. They'll say, "Well, I'll get my parent, somebody who's there from 9 to 5."
Right.
And that's fine from 9 to 5, maybe.
Exactly. What about from 5 to 9?
Exactly.
Yeah,
You've got it
exactly.
exactly. You've got
Yep.
it absolutely perfect. And so I talk to a lot of people who do that, and they wonder why their loved one has been found out wandering on the street at 1 in the morning
Yep.
and
Happened to
in
me.
danger of being hurt.
Hmm.
You know, I spoke to a dental technician when I went for a visit one time to get my teeth cleaned, and she said, maybe you're somebody I should talk to. I've got my father-in-law, and he's taking care of my mother-in-law, but he's always exhausted. We don't understand it. One of the boys, my husband or his brother, will go and stay with them every weekend, but he's always so exhausted. We don't understand, what the situation is. What's the problem? My mother-in-law's got dementia, and all day she stares at the mirror and looks at her image, and she doesn't do anything. And then at night she goes out and wanders. I said, "Well, where do they live?" She said, "They live on the mesa." And Mesa is a wild place with a lot of wild animals and
Oh
uh,
boy.
uneven land. It's rural out there.
Yeah.
So I said, "And you think that he thinks it's safe and he just lets her wander out there?" "Oh, no, no, he's going to go after her." I said, "Well, how would you feel if you had to be on duty 24/7 for
Right.
5 days
Right.
in a row? And then
Right.
someone comes to spell you for 2 days, and
Right.
then you go back on duty again."
And this is
She,
something this is
yeah,
something that a lot of people get to, that where our loved ones require 24/7 care. I remember I got to that point with my mom. She lived with us, and we still couldn't take care of her.
yeah,
And so we put her into an assisted living facility. She escaped. We had to put her into another assisted living facility. They almost killed her. We put her, and then we found an adult family home. So, I mean, the nightmares that can happen, are endless. Uh, and again, I hate to say this, but there comes a point in time when the circle of life comes back to us taking care of our parents. So, so yeah. So in your mom's case, what happened?
Well, I got her someone I actually got two different services because it was a little less expensive having one in the day and one at night.
Hmm.
And eventually, one of the caregivers decided she wanted the whole pie. And she started talking bad about the other service, and they
Hmm.
didn't do this and they didn't do
Right.
that. I didn't know whether they did or they didn't. And Mama really was not a reliable witness. So
Right.
eventually she got us to hire her as the sole caregiver, which she couldn't be anyway. And I didn't realize at the time that that was true. So she ended up having members of her family come and stay
Oh,
with my mother,
oh my gosh.
even though she didn't tell me that.
Okay.
And I didn't know that until one night she had a traffic accident. And I didn't know she was not with my mother. And she called me and told me she'd had a traffic accident on the way back to my mother's house,
Okay.
since I didn't, she wasn't there. That the person that she had staying with her, the family member, had already left because she had said she was going to leave at a particular hour. So my mother was there alone,
Not
even
only
though,
that, yeah, not only that, these aren't certified folks, I take it. I
well,
mean,
she originally came from a service
okay,
that was licensed and bonded and insured and all that other good stuff.
but her
And
family?
for the service, she was part of a caregiving enterprise that was a home caregivers, not a network, but she was under the employment of this service, and I would pay the service. So
Okay.
when she was hired privately, I learned a number of things. I learned that there's a federal employees set of regulations that you need to abide by, which increases the fee from what you agreed with the person for by at least a third, because you have these benefits that have to be paid. So you
Okay.
think you've agreed to one price, you've actually agreed to at least a third more. So it becomes a compounding nightmare
Okay.
as it progresses.
So let's get to what happened with the caregiver and what she did uh, to you and to your mom.
She suddenly came up with an idea that she was going to inherit my mother's home. I don't know where she came up with that idea,
This is the
but
caregiver.
the caregiver, she was an in-home paid caregiver, and she became more and more territorial as time went on.
Okay. And
My
where are you
mother
during all this?
I was taking care of my husband who had end stage Parkinson's.
Okay.
So I was taking care of him, and I had to have somebody take care of my mother because I couldn't put the two of them in the same place.
So you trusted this person
I trusted this
because you
person
really had
because,
no choice,
and
it sounds like.
she had
Yeah.
come originally bonded and insured from
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
agency.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So all these things were going on, and she was bringing in her family members to do work for my mother and all kinds of things that I wasn't aware of. And my mother had forgotten what money meant, basically. She
Hmm.
forgot how to write checks. She forgot about her investment. She really didn't know what she owned. She really didn't understand finance at all anymore. And
Okay.
my father had really been the financial brains in the family anyway. My mother generally confined her discussions of finance to saying yes, dear, to my
Okay.
father
So
when he
so
wanted
when
to make an investment.
okay, so at this point, she is still writing checks.
Apparently she was.
You don't
Apparently
have you
she
don't
was.
have the um what's it called?
Power of
Attorney
attorney.
power of attorney
I did
on
have
you.
power of attorney because I was paying her bills through her checkbook.
But she was still writing checks
She could
herself.
still write checks herself. Well, she wasn't declared incapacitated, and so she had the legal right to write a check if she wanted to. Having someone's power of attorney doesn't mean you take away their right to do
Got
that.
it. Got it. Okay.
It just
Okay.
means you have the right to do it.
So she's writing checks to this
She's right.
care
Yeah,
provider
yeah.
that you don't know, and you don't know this is going on.
I don't know what she's going to write
Oh
them
my gosh.
for or
Okay.
how much she's going to write them for. And she's
Right.
writing them. They're not huge, but they're
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and the person is accompanying her to the bank, so it means she probably knows what's in my mother's checking account. I didn't realize they were still going in the bank.
Okay.
Found out later. Um, all manner of things are happening, and my mother is getting worse, and her anxiety and her upset. It's very easy for her to be sitting in a chair and get upset.
Okay.
So nothing's happening, but she's getting upset.
So what let's keep going with what happened in
Right,
in your story with the caregiver.
right. The caregiver's family's moving in closer and closer and closer, and more of them. They want to redo the yard. They want to redo the roof. All kinds of things they want to.
Why aren't you putting a stop to this?
I can't stop my mother from doing things because I don't have the power to do that.
Okay.
I mean, I have her power of attorney to make payments. I don't have a power of attorney to control my mother.
Got it.
I mean,
Got it.
that's what a guardian does.
Okay.
And it got really, really bad. And then they started wanting to come over to my house and do the same things at my house. And I said no, because I had the right to do it. My husband said no. I said no. And we prevented them from moving in on us.
Well, wait,
But
they tried to take over
they
your
no,
stuff?
they wanted to do our odd jobs for us. They wanted to do plumbing or roof repair or whatever it was we wanted done. And they were not people we wanted to have do those things.
Okay.
And we
So I
didn't want to
mean,
be taken over by them. We could see that it was happening to my mother. Meanwhile, she was getting worse and worse and
okay.
worse in terms of her mental functioning.
Okay.
And the caregiver started taking her out of the house to other locations without my
Okay.
knowledge. I would get there. She would.
So let's there's a lot that was happening. Okay. I want to get to the legal thing that happened. And what you woke up to one day.
I woke up to the fact that these people were now controlling my mother. And she really didn't have any ability to fight it because she really was dependent on this caregiver. She had become the primary caregiver and she was very territorial.
Okay.
And I realized my mother was declining mentally and was very subject to manipulation and fear because she told me the caregiver had told her that if she ever discharged her, she would die, which is a very scary thing to tell somebody. You
Uh,
can't survive without me. If I'm not here, you're going to die.
right. Right.
I mean, how can you tell somebody that?
And your mom doesn't have the mental capacity to ferret that out.
Right. So
Okay.
I went to my attorney. I had a relationship with one of the partners in a law firm because our whole family had been using him to do his firm to do things for us. And I said to him, I don't know what to do anymore.
Hmm.
I don't want this person going into my mother's mail and getting her bank statements and all that other stuff from the mail. I can't stop it because if I take her mail, I'm stealing her mail. If I take her mail before she gets it, there were mailboxes out by the curb, and the postman would put the mail in those boxes. I said,
Hmm.
if I go and take her mail, I'm
Right.
stealing
Right.
mail.
Right.
I don't want to steal her mail. And I don't want this woman having financial access to my mother's accounts either. So he said, well, there is guardianship. And he was a little bit unhappy saying it. I said, well, would it help if I had a guardianship instead of just a power of attorney? He said, well, it would give you the power to get rid of this woman and her family and take care of your mother.
Okay.
And I said, well, how do I do that? He said, there's a person in my firm who does nothing but that. I said, I'll give you, I'll put you in touch with her. You talk to her. And I did. I went and saw her. And she said, I know exactly what you need to do. She said, I'll take care of all of it. You just let me do it.
So this
And
is your attorney
my
and
attorney's
an attorney,
associate,
yeah, an associate in your attorney's company or practice.
Correct. In his
So
law firm.
so
Yeah.
a trusted person,
Yeah, I
right? I mean,
trusted him
you're trusting,
completely.
yeah, and then by association, you are trusting her. Okay,
Exactly.
got it.
Exactly. So I'm in her power now. I mean,
Hmm.
literally, she's going to take care of everything. So she tells me, well, you need this person to be what's called a court visitor, and you need that person to be what's called the, what do they call that? The medical person who gives testimony. And you need
Hmm.
this other person to be a guardian ad litem, they call it. It's supposedly an attorney that's appointed to make sure everything's going right. So
Okay,
she, yeah,
so this, sorry, this effort is to make you the guardian.
theoretically, I
This
thought,
is so this is what you are asking them to do is to make you your mother's guardian.
right.
And I'm just going to skip ahead.
Okay.
That didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen. And it didn't
And
happen because there was a group meeting among my attorney, an attorney who pretty much walked in off the street and said he was my mother's attorney. The judge, I was there, but I wasn't allowed to speak until after everything was decided. Um, I wasn't at that meeting, I was at a later meeting. But this was a previous meeting, and they induced my mother to tear up the power of attorney she had given me that I had
who
had
did?
for these
Your
people.
attorney?
My
This
attorney,
group?
my attorney, and these other people that I'm telling you about. They got together and they told my mother to tear up the power of attorney she had given me.
Now there's a judge in this too.
There's no judge in this particular meeting.
Okay, in
The
this
judge is
meeting there
not
is no
there.
judge. Okay, got it.
There's no judge there.
These are attorneys.
These are attorneys. There are three attorneys and my mother. So she's already well overmatched because she's mentally not as sharp as she used to be. And
Mm,
she was very sharp. She used to be a college professor. She was very intelligent. So she's not a match for three attorneys.
right.
So they get her to tear up the power of attorney. The next week, there's a competency hearing for her. And they said, well, she tore up the power of attorney for her daughter, so clearly she doesn't want her daughter to be her guardian.
Oh my gosh.
Aha. Uh-huh. But my
Oh my
attorney
gosh.
was in that meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
So she stabbed me in the back, basically.
Okay. So all right. So why?
She did a lot more business with the guardianship firm
And
later.
so
And she may
who?
have done some before that that I didn't know about. But
So,
she became very, very friendly with them and did a lot of work with them and their clients and their friends.
so who
It was
became your mom's guardian?
a commercial company.
A commercial
It's
company. So
a
your
commercial company.
attorney who you hired to make you guardian for your mother
Mhm.
got a guardianship company to become your mother's guardian, not you.
Because my mother had torn up the power of attorney.
But this is your attorney. Isn't there an attorney
Okay, well,
client thing?
I didn't know about the previous meeting, the meeting I just told you about. She never told
So
me there
she's
was a
doing
meeting.
these having these meetings behind your back under the table without your knowledge because it sounds like she has a hidden agenda of making this third party company your mother's guardian. Now
I
why
later discovered she had done that many times.
and okay, she's got the relationship with this third party company. Why did they do this?
Money. They need a certain number of clients. They have a certain number of employees and a certain number of contractors working for them. They need to pay them. And they
Okay,
probably want some additional money for themselves to do other things.
so how did they get money from your mom? What
Well,
was their,
once
uh-huh.
once somebody is a guardian, a legal guardian, they have total control over the person's accounts. All
Oh
of them.
boy.
All of them. They're not limited to a checking account or a savings account. They have absolute power
They have
to,
power and discretion
well,
to do whatever they.
the discretion might have been a bit lacking, I think, from my point of view.
Okay, but it's all up to them.
Well, theoretically, it's also up to the judge. And
Okay.
but
So
the
then,
judge always says yes to them, I discovered.
oh, now is the judge in cahoots?
I have no proof. I only know what I saw. And what I
So,
saw seemed pretty bad.
oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm sitting here going, well, you could have set up a hearing, you could have met with the judge, you could have done all that stuff, but the attorneys got your mom tore up the power of attorney that you had with her. So you have no legal standing at this point.
You got it. Well, except
Oh my
as her
God.
daughter, I don't have any special privileges.
Who
As her
did what?
power of attorney, I actually saw cases. I know people where they got the power of attorney voided by a judge in the courtroom, not in a private meeting, but they went in with a power of attorney and the judge said, no, I'm declaring it null and void. You no longer have a power of attorney. John over here is going to be the guardian and the conservator.
And what the judge says goes.
Yeah.
So that so what I'm hearing, I'm shocked and I'm on the verge of being disgusted. Um, so I mean, it is rife with opportunities for massive corruption and massive fraud. Well, I mean, fraud in the sense of abusing the legal system.
Let me give you one more reason why it's easy to commit this kind of action.
Yes.
Almost every state requires these guardianship hearings to take place in absolute secrecy. No,
Say that again.
almost every state requires that the hearings at which the guardianship is declared and the conservators appointed be held in secrecy. They do not put the name of the person who's going to be the ward on the court agenda, the published agenda. They don't put any of the principals' names on it. There's the name of one attorney and the judge, and you know it's a guardianship case, but you don't know whose guardianship case it is, and they don't allow spectators.
And why, from a legal standpoint, there must be a reason beyond what bad people wanting to take advantage of the system, right? I mean,
No, okay.
what is,
The published reason is the privacy of the ward. Because mental incapacity or physical incapacity for which you need a guardian as opposed to a guardian and a conservator. Uh,
okay,
for physical incapacity, it's a privacy matter, it's a medical matter. You don't want this in public. We're protecting the privacy of
got
the
it, got it.
individual.
Okay,
And
so
so
that,
they protect the individual, yeah, sort of, maybe.
yeah, but the bad guys are protecting themselves.
Very much so.
Um, okay, okay. So, uh, my mom passed away from Alzheimer's. I never heard of anything like this happening. And I'm so sorry that you went through this. So what was the final outcome to
Well, my
the,
mother remained under their control for 9 years. They told
my
me,
goodness.
right after this happened, they said, well, nobody ever lives more than 3 years in guardianship. So within 3 years, your mother will pass away. And then they refused to allow me to see her.
They refused to allow you to see her.
Correct. A guardian is like having they make it like having the guardianship of an 8-year-old child. The guardian has the right to say, you can't come and see this person. And they did
Oh
that.
my gosh.
They told me that I could come and see her at Christmas. I went to see her at Christmas. They said they were going to gradually remove the caregiver who was having all the family members do stuff for my
Right.
mother. And they said they were removing her and that there would be an alternate person there. So I went there to visit her. And the original caregiver was there and she had a gun.
And
That
she
was
had a
not
gun.
that was not pleasant. I made sure that I didn't stay too long because I didn't want to get her angry. I knew it would upset my mother, and it was quite a distressing situation.
My goodness. So,
So I didn't trust them again if they said she wasn't going to be there.
but
And
there
they
was
told me
nothing you
not
could
to
do.
come. I mean, there was nothing I could do. I knew that if I confronted this woman again, I didn't know what was going to happen with her gun, or with anything else. So I didn't see my mother for almost 3 years. Finally, I sued them. I said, I want the guardianship back. And they said, well, you're really not really with it, and we want you to go get a mental exam. And I figured they were coming after me. And I discovered later that they did that in some families. They would take the guardianship of one member of the family, and then a year or two, three later, they would come after the next member of the family.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh
it,
my
it
gosh.
was it was very, very scary. I can't even
So,
tell you how scary it was. And meanwhile, my husband was sick, and then my husband passed away. So then
oh my gosh.
I
Oh
felt
my
more
gosh.
exposed after he was gone than I did even when he was sick. And I felt he was exposed. I didn't want to expose him to that. So it
Okay.
became a really difficult dancing act that I had to perform all the time.
So this is yeah, not only a dancing act, but an emotional roller coaster that you're having to deal with, and scary. So I mean,
Yeah.
legitimately scary. I mean, a roller coaster is fun. This was not a fun roller coaster that you had to go through. Um,
No, this
listen,
was in the horror house.
so I want to if you're open to do having joining me one more time, because we're kind of getting to the end of our time, um, because there's a lot more. I mean, Laney, I'm so sorry because I kind of cut you off and a couple of times as you were telling your story, because it's such an involved story. So for now, what happened? Your mom passed away, and then what happened?
Well, I had promised her that I would tell the story,
Yes.
and she wanted other people to be saved some of what we went through. And I wanted to do that. But in New Mexico, all the records are secret. And this is true in most jurisdictions. Most states say that guardianship records are sealed, as if somebody had committed a crime in childhood
My
and their
goodness.
records are sealed. But there's no crime. The only crime is being old and sick.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not a
yeah,
crime.
yeah.
So I started to I started a suit against the guardian for things they had done or not done that they should have done while my mother was alive. I could do that because she had named me as what in New Mexico is called a personal representative, but in most states it's called an executor or an
Mm-hmm.
executrix.
Right.
And she gave me that power. They couldn't change her will. They kept trying to change her will while she was under their control.
Now, why
But
couldn't they change her will? I mean, they had power over everything, right?
well, the only thing they didn't have power over was I was the only beneficiary. If there had been more than one beneficiary, they would have tried to play the beneficiaries off against each other, which is what they do.
Oh,
They
interesting.
couldn't play me against myself. There was
Right.
no way they could do that. So I just kept saying, look, this was Mama's will. She wrote it when she was perfectly competent. And if I change it, she's going to come back and haunt me. because it's
Okay.
not my business to change my mother's will.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So, you know, I'm really, oh my gosh, I'm at a point to where I want you to continue, but I know that this is going to take more time than we have left.
I'll come
Um,
back next time and I'll tell the rest of it.
yeah, yeah. So, for now, does it have, because we're going to talk about the process that you went through, but just for some people who aren't going to tune in next time, does this have a happy ending?
Yes, it got worse before it got better, but it did get better.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So, Lainey, I am really sorry. But we keep these to about a half hour or so. And then but there's going to be, folks, there's going to be a part two to this, okay? Because there's more you need to know with regards to the lawsuit that Leonie filed and the process that she went through to get this thing done and yeah, to come to closure on this. And this example is not a one-off case. It's so much not a one-off case that Lainey is writing books about it. And I'll tell you, her legal protection book, I've got it. I've got it. And look, it's really simple, and it's got cartoons in it. It's got cartoons in it, but and I don't mean to laugh at it, but it is one of those things where she has taken something very, very complicated and distilled it down to a layperson's understanding, like me. And so next time we're going to have another conversation. Lanny, I would love for you to talk about um, how people can set themselves up to optimize their chances of keeping something like this from happening to them.
I sure
And
will.
and of course we want to we're gonna start off where we're leaving off with the lawsuit and what you did, what you went through, and how you came to closure. But folks, this is, again, this podcast is about finding better, and right, wrong, or indifferent, we live in a very litigious and a very complicated environment, and understanding the possibilities with regards to our legal rights um, can be one of those situations that is not whether it's going to happen, but when it's going to happen. So, Laney, for now, do you have anything else that you'd like to leave with our audience?
I want them to feel good about making nice with their families.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
It's very important to communicate
Yes.
because one of the problems in my family was a lack of correct communication.
Let's talk about that too, because one of the things that kind of drives me crazy, Leonie, is what happens to people when it comes to inheritances. I have found and you just brought it up in a way of keeping communications open. I'm bringing it up on perhaps the darker side that says, I've seen really, really amazing people go crazy in terms
Mhm.
of how they view their inheritance and how they go about life. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it
We
at
can
that.
talk about that next time.
Yes, yes. This is such an amazing, amazing, amazing topic. Lanny, if people want to learn more about you, where do they go? How do they do that?
They could go to dayspringresources.com, which is up there on the sign, and they can contact me right there on the website. There's a contact page. They
So
can just write me.
that's
Resources.
dayspringresources.com. And her name is Leonie Rosenstiel. Leonie, thank you. Thank you again for joining me. Wow. Wow. I've never had my blood pressure go up as much as it did in this conversation on any podcast episode I've ever been on. So thank you. Thank you for this. For my audience,
Thank you, I think.
yeah, yeah, no, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Um, uh, Listen. Quick announcement. Just a quick reminder to everybody. That book right there, American Grit. I came out with my second edition. I'm offering it for free for you to download for free on my website, johnsuzuki.com. It's an amazing story. It's a story that I want the world to be reminded of that happened with regard to American concentration camps during World War II and the people who did amazing, amazing things and refused to be victims and went off to become champions. So with that, johnsuzuki.com, feel free to download it and you can have it for free. Okay. Leonie, thank you again so much. I know that folks listening are gonna, if nothing else, they've just got their eyes popped wide open. Okay. So,
Thank you so much.
so with that, Lainey, I love you. God bless you. Everybody out there, I love you. And God bless you. And thank you for coming. We'll see you next time. Bye.